Baby saw a German Shepherd cemented. Near a roadside pillar, what the baby did next. Left everyone in tears. What happened next will shock you. Before we begin, please like, share, subscribe, and let us know in the comments where you're listening from around the world. The story you're about to listen to will change how you see the power of a child's heart forever. Late afternoon sun beat down on the dusty construction site, where the new pedestrian overpass stretched across the busy city road. Concrete mixers hummed their mechanical song, while dust particles danced in the thick heated air. Traffic moved in slow waves, horns blaring as drivers navigated around orange cones and warning signs. 5-year-old Alex clung to his mother's back as their scooter weaved through the congested street. His tiny fingers gripped Maya's shoulders while his backpack bounced with each bump in the road. Maya, dressed in her faded blue work uniform, squinted against the afternoon glare. She was already running late for her evening shift at the textile factory, and the construction delays weren't helping. "Mama, look!" Alex's voice piped up from behind her, barely audible over the engine noise. Maya kept her eyes on the road, focused on finding a gap between two buses. "What is it, Beta?" "We're almost through this mess." "There's a dog, Mama, a big brown dog." "Dogs are everywhere, Alex. Hold on tight." But Alex's small body had gone rigid against her back. His breathing changed, becoming shallow and quick. Something in his stillness made Maya slow the scooter and glance to her right. That's when she saw him. A massive German Shepherd sat perfectly still beside a concrete pillar, his golden brown coat matted with dust and something else, something gray and chalky. The dog's dark eyes were fixed directly on Alex, and even from 20 feet away, Maya could see the animal's chest rising and falling in rapid, distressed breaths. "Mama, he can't move," Alex whispered, his voice trembling. Maya brought the scooter to a complete stop, her heart beginning to race. Other vehicles honked and swerved around them, but she barely noticed. The dog hadn't moved an inch. Not his head, not his paws, nothing except those intelligent brown eyes that seemed to be pleading directly with her son. "Why isn't he moving, Mama?" Maya looked closer and felt her stomach drop. A thick metal chain ran from the dog's collar to the base of the concrete pillar. But it wasn't just attached. The chain disappeared into what looked like freshly poured cement around a steel anchor ring. Wet gray splatters covered the dog's fur, and small chunks of hardened cement dotted the ground around his paws. "Oh my God," Maya breathed. A small crowd had begun to gather. Construction workers in hard hats stood in a loose circle about 10 feet away from the dog, talking in low voices. A few commuters had stopped their vehicles and were taking pictures with their phones. But nobody was doing anything. Alex was already tugging at his mother's dupatta. "Mama, we have to help him. Look at his eyes." Maya's practical mind kicked in immediately. They were late. She didn't know anything about dogs, especially big ones like this. It looked like some kind of construction setup, maybe for security. There could be permits involved, or the dog might be aggressive, and all these people watching. "Beta, this looks like work stuff. The construction people will handle it." "No, Mama." Alex's voice carried a certainty that surprised her. "Look at his face. He's scared." Maya looked again. The German Shepherd's ears were pressed flat against his head, not in aggression, but in submission. His tail lay limp in the dust. When their eyes met, the dog let out a soft whimper that cut through all the traffic noise like a knife. "He's asking for help," Alex said simply. Before Maya could stop him, Alex had wriggled off the scooter and was walking toward the dog. His little legs moved with purpose, his SpongeBob backpack bouncing with each step. "Alex, come back here." But her son had already reached into his backpack and pulled out his small water bottle. The blue plastic bottle looked enormous in his tiny hands as he approached the massive dog. The construction workers stopped talking. The phone cameras turned toward Alex. Maya's heart pounded as she watched her 5-year-old son walk straight up to a chained German Shepherd without an ounce of fear. "Hi, doggy," Alex said softly, kneeling just out of reach. "Are you thirsty?" The dog's response was immediate. His tail gave the faintest wag, just the tip moving in the dust. His dark eyes never left Alex's face. Alex struggled with the bottle cap, his small fingers working at the ridged plastic. Maya took a step forward, ready to intervene, but something made her stop. The dog hadn't moved aggressively. Instead, he seemed to be holding perfectly still, as if he understood that sudden movements might frighten the child. Finally, the cap popped off. Alex scooted closer, just close enough to tip the bottle toward the dog's mouth. Clear water trickled out, and the German Shepherd lapped at it desperately, his pink tongue working quickly to catch every drop. "That's it, good boy," Alex murmured, the same tone Maya used when comforting him after a nightmare. The crowd around them had grown. Maya counted at least 15 people now, all watching a tiny boy give water to a trapped dog. Phones recorded every second, but still, nobody stepped forward to help. Alex noticed the wet cement splattered on the dog's fur and gently tried to brush it away with his small fingers. The chunks were too hard, already set. He pulled off his favorite red baseball cap, the one with the cartoon car on it, and held it over the dog's head to create shade. "You're hot, aren't you?" Alex said. "This will help." The German Shepherd looked up at the makeshift shade, then back at Alex. Slowly, carefully, he leaned his massive head forward and rested it gently on Alex's knee. Maya felt tears spring to her eyes. Around them, she heard gasps and murmurs from the crowd. Several women were wiping their eyes. "Did you see that? The dog knows the kid is helping. Why isn't anyone doing anything?" Alex began talking to the dog in the same voice he used with his stuffed animals at bedtime. "Don't worry, okay? My mama and I will figure this out. What's your name? You look like a Charlie to me." The dog's tail wagged a little stronger now, stirring up small clouds of dust. His breathing had slowed, becoming more regular, as Alex continued to pet his head with gentle strokes. Maya found herself walking toward them, her practical fears melting away in the face of her son's pure compassion. She knelt beside Alex and got her first close look at the situation. The metal chain was thick and heavy, designed for a large dog. It ran about 3 feet from the collar to where it disappeared into a concrete anchor point at the base of the pillar. But this wasn't professional work. The cement was sloppy, poured in rough chunks around a steel ring that had been hammered into the ground. Wet gray material still clung to the chain links near the anchor point. "Mama, why would someone do this?" Alex asked, his voice small. Maya studied the setup more carefully. This wasn't temporary restraint. Someone had meant for this dog to stay here permanently. The cement was fresh enough that it was still damp in some spots, but hard enough that the chain was completely immobilized. "I don't know, Beta, but we're going to help him." A deep voice behind them made both Maya and Alex turn around. "That dog is dangerous. You need to stay back." A tall man, in a crisp white shirt and dark pants, stood about 6 feet away. Despite the construction dust and heat, his clothes looked freshly pressed. A silver watch caught the sunlight on his wrist, and his leather shoes were polished to a mirror shine. "Sir, he doesn't seem dangerous," Maya said, standing up slowly. "He's been very gentle with my son." The man stepped closer, and Maya noticed he carried a black folder under one arm. Everything about him screamed authority and expense, from his perfectly styled hair to his confident posture. "Ma'am, I'm Mr. Khan from Site Security Management. This animal is under a quarantine order. He's been displaying aggressive behavior toward construction workers." Alex looked up from where he was still petting Charlie's head. "But he's not being mean. He just drank water very nicely." Mr. Khan's eyes fixed on Alex with an expression that made Maya uncomfortable. "Little boy, animals can be unpredictable. This one is sick and needs to be handled by professionals." "What kind of sick?" Alex asked, his hand never stopping its gentle motion on Charlie's fur. "That's not your concern. Everyone needs to move along and let me handle this situation properly." Maya felt a chill despite the afternoon heat. Something about Mr. Khan's tone didn't sit right. "What company are you with? Do you have identification?" Mr. Khan reached into his folder and pulled out a laminated card. He flashed it briefly before tucking it away again. Maya caught a glimpse of an official-looking seal, but no company name or contact information. "This is a private security matter, ma'am. I have full authority here." One of the construction workers, a middle-aged man with kind eyes and cement-stained clothes, approached them. "Excuse me, sir, but I've been working this site for 3 weeks and I've never seen you before. And this dog wasn't here this morning when we started." Mr. Khan's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "That's because this situation developed during the day shift. The animal wandered onto the property and had to be secured for public safety." "Wandered on?" Alex piped up. "But why is he stuck in cement?" Maya looked down at her son and felt her heart swell with pride. Even at 5 years old, Alex was asking the right questions. Mr. Khan's polished smile looked forced now. "It's a temporary restraint measure. I have a specialized team coming to handle the removal." "When?" the construction worker asked. "Because that cement is setting hard, and it's going to be painful for the animal if it stays much longer." "That's not your concern." Mr. Khan's voice had an edge now. "I need everyone to clear the area immediately." But nobody moved. The crowd had grown to nearly 20 people now, and they formed a protective semicircle around Alex, Maya, and Charlie. The construction worker crossed his arms and planted his feet wider. "I've got tools that could chip away that cement," the worker said. "Seems like the humane thing to do while we wait for your specialized team." "Absolutely not. This animal is unpredictable and potentially rabid. No one touches that chain." Charlie, as if understanding he was being discussed, lifted his head from Alex's knee and looked directly at Mr. Khan. His ears perked forward, and a low rumble started deep in his chest. Not aggressive, but wary. Alex immediately placed both his small hands on Charlie's neck. "It's okay, boy. Nobody's gonna hurt you." The rumble stopped instantly. Charlie's tail wagged once and he settled back down, but his eyes never left Mr. Khan's face. Maya noticed something else. While everyone had been talking, Charlie had started using his nose to nudge at something under his collar. The leather was old and worn, and in one spot the stitching had come loose, creating a small flap. Alex noticed too. "Mama, I think his collar is too tight. It's bothering him." Maya knelt down for a closer look. The collar did seem snug, but as Alex gently lifted the loose flap to check for chafing, something small and white fell into his palm. It was a tiny ceramic tube, no bigger than a pill capsule. Numbers were etched into its surface in microscopic print. Alex examined it with the serious curiosity only 5-year-olds possess. "Look, Mama, Charlie had a secret message." Maya's blood ran cold. She glanced up at Mr. Khan and saw that his face had gone completely pale. His eyes were fixed on the small object in Alex's hand with an intensity that made her want to grab her son and run. "Give that to me," Mr. Khan said, his voice sharp. "Immediately." "Why?" Alex asked, closing his small fist around the capsule. "It was bothering Charlie. I was just helping him feel better." Mr. Khan took a step closer, his polished facade cracking. "Son, that could be dangerous. Some kind of medical tag. You need to hand it over right now." Maya stood up and instinctively moved between Mr. Khan and Alex. "He's not touching anything dangerous. I'll take a look at it first." The construction worker moved closer too, flanking Maya's other side. "Sir, I think you need to back up and let the family handle this. The boy was just trying to help the dog." Charlie seemed to sense the tension. He struggled against the chain, trying to stand, but the cement anchor held him in place. A whine escaped his throat, and he pawed gently at Alex's leg. "It's okay, Charlie," Alex whispered, still clutching the capsule. "We won't let anyone be mean to you." That's when Maya heard it, the low rumble of heavy engines approaching from the direction of the main road. Not construction vehicles. Something else. Mr. Khan heard it too, and for the first time since he'd appeared, he smiled. But it wasn't a pleasant expression. "My specialized team is here," he said, pulling out his phone. "Everyone needs to disperse immediately. This is now an official quarantine enforcement action." Maya looked toward the sound of the approaching engines and felt ice form in her stomach. 2 black SUVs were moving slowly through the construction zone, their tinted windows making it impossible to see inside. Alex was still kneeling beside Charlie, completely unaware of the growing tension. He had opened his small fist and was examining the ceramic capsule more closely. "Mama," he said in wonder, "there are tiny numbers on here, and it feels like something is inside." Mr. Khan's hand moved toward his jacket, and Maya caught a glimpse of something dark clipped to his belt. The construction worker saw it too. "Sir, I'm going to need to see that identification again. Real slow-like." But Mr. Khan wasn't looking at the worker anymore. His attention was completely focused on the ceramic capsule in Alex's hand and the approaching vehicles. Charlie let out a sharp bark, the first real sound he'd made since they'd arrived. His ears were pinned back, and his eyes darted between Mr. Khan and the SUVs. Maya felt a cold certainty settle in her bones. They weren't dealing with site security. They were dealing with something much more dangerous. and her 5-year-old son, with his pure heart and simple desire to help a trapped dog, had just stumbled into the middle of it. The black SUVs rolled to a stop, about 30 feet away, their engines still running. Maya could see shapes moving inside, but the tinted windows revealed nothing. The construction worker, whose name tag read Omar, positioned himself more firmly between the vehicles and the small group around Charlie. "Alex, come here," Maya said quietly, trying to keep the fear out of her voice. But Alex was completely focused on the ceramic capsule. His small fingers had found a hairline crack along its length, and as he gently twisted it, the tube separated into 2 pieces. "Mama, look! There's something inside." A tiny micro SD card, no bigger than a fingernail, fell into Alex's palm, along with what looked like a small piece of paper with numbers written on it. Mr. Khan lunged forward. "Give me that immediately!" Omar stepped into his path, his work-hardened hands raised. "Back off, buddy. The kid found something that was hurting the dog. That makes it his business, not yours." "You don't understand what you're interfering with?" Mr. Khan hissed, his polished composure completely gone now. "That material is evidence in an ongoing investigation." Maya knelt beside Alex, her mind racing. What kind of investigation? And why was evidence hidden in a dog collar? Alex held up the micro SD card, examining it with the innocent curiosity of a child who'd found an interesting pebble. "What's this for, Mama?" "It goes in computers," Maya said absently, her eyes fixed on Mr. Khan's increasingly agitated face. "Alex, put that in your pocket for now." "No!" Mr. Khan's voice cracked with desperation. "You have no idea what kind of danger you're putting yourselves in. There are people who will do anything to get that information." Charlie, who had been watching the exchange with intelligent eyes, suddenly pulled against his chain with renewed strength. The metal links clanked against the concrete anchor, and the dog let out a series of sharp barks directed at the SUVs. Omar followed Charlie's gaze and swore under his breath. "Those aren't security vehicles. Look at the plates." Maya squinted at the rear plate of the nearest SUV. Instead of regular Pakistani license plates, these had official government markings she didn't recognize. Alex, still clutching the micro SD card and paper, looked up at Charlie with concern. "Don't worry, boy. We're going to get you out of this cement thing." The determination in her son's voice made Maya's heart ache with pride and terror in equal measure. Alex had no idea they were potentially facing down dangerous people. To him, this was still just about helping a trapped dog. "Omar," Maya said quietly, "you mentioned you have tools that could break the cement?" Omar nodded grimly. "Hammer and chisel in my truck. But that's going to make noise, and it's going to take time." "How much time?" 10, maybe 15 minutes if the cement isn't fully cured." Mr. Khan heard them talking and pulled out his phone again. He walked a few steps away, but his voice carried clearly in the afternoon air. "Yes, they have it. The package was hidden exactly where we thought." "No, they won't cooperate. Bring the team." Maya felt ice form in her veins. She looked around desperately, counting their options. The crowd of onlookers had grown to nearly 30 people, but they were mostly commuters and pedestrians. Not exactly the kind of backup she needed right now. Alex was still kneeling beside Charlie, trying to comfort the increasingly agitated dog. "Shh, it's okay. These people are just confused. Nobody's going to hurt you." But Charlie wasn't looking at Alex anymore. His eyes were fixed on the SUVs, and a low, constant growl rumbled in his chest. The dog's whole body was tense, ready to fight despite being trapped by the cement anchor. Maya knelt and whispered urgently to Omar, "I think we need to get Alex and that information away from here, now." Omar nodded, but before he could respond, another voice cut through the tension. "Excuse me, what's the situation here?" Maya turned to see a young woman approaching from the direction of the bus stop. She was probably in her early 20s, wearing scrubs and carrying a large shoulder bag with a Red Cross symbol. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and she moved with the confident stride of someone used to dealing with emergencies. "There's a dog trapped in cement," Alex called out helpfully. "We're trying to help him, but that man says we can't." The young woman's eyes swept over the scene, taking in Charlie's position, the cement anchor, and the tense standoff between Mr. Khan and the small group. Her gaze lingered on the black SUVs for a moment before she approached Charlie directly. "I'm Zara," she said, kneeling beside Alex. I work at the veterinary clinic downtown. Can I take a look at him? Alex's face lit up. You help animals? Charlie really needs help. Zara smiled at Alex before turning her attention to Charlie. Maya watched in amazement as the dog immediately calmed under Zara's examination. She checked his gums, looked into his eyes, and ran her hands gently over his body with the practiced efficiency of someone who knew exactly what she was doing. He's dehydrated and stressed, but not aggressive, Zara announced to the crowd. Look at his body language. Ears forward, mouth open and relaxed, slow tail wag. This dog isn't dangerous. Mr. Khan stepped closer, his voice tight with controlled anger. Miss, you need to stay away from that animal. It's under quarantine for aggressive behavior. Zara looked up at him with calm, professional skepticism. Quarantine by whom? And where's the paperwork? Any legitimate quarantine would require veterinary documentation. That's classified information. No, it's not. Zara stood up, and despite being significantly smaller than Mr. Khan, her presence commanded attention. Animal quarantines are public health measures. The documentation has to be available for inspection. While they argued, Zara casually reached into her bag and pulled out what looked like a small scanner attached to a keychain. She ran it quickly over Charlie's neck area, and Maya heard a faint beeping sound. Zara's expression changed immediately. She looked at the scanner's tiny screen, then back at Charlie with something like shock. This dog is microchipped, she announced loudly. And according to the registry, he belongs to someone named Jamal Rashed. The crowd murmured with interest, but Maya noticed that Mr. Khan had gone completely white. That name sounds familiar, one of the bystanders said. Wasn't there a news reporter with that name who went missing last week? Zara nodded grimly. Jamal Rashid is an investigative journalist. He disappeared 6 days ago. His family has been looking for him. The implications hit Maya like a physical blow. The ceramic capsule Alex had found, the hidden micro SD card, the cement anchor keeping Charlie trapped. This wasn't random cruelty. This was someone trying to silence a journalist and hide evidence. Alex was still sitting beside Charlie, completely oblivious to the adult conversation swirling around him. He had taken out his small packet of crackers from his backpack and was breaking them into tiny pieces for the dog. Charlie must miss his daddy, Alex said seriously. That's why he looks so sad. Charlie accepted the crackers gently, his tail wagging more strongly now, but his ears kept swiveling toward the SUVs, and Maya could see the tension in his powerful shoulders. Omar had been listening to everything with growing alarm. Ma'am, he said to Maya, I think we need to get that boy away from here, right now. But before Maya could respond, the doors of both SUVs opened simultaneously. 6 men in dark clothing emerged, all wearing identical sunglasses despite the late afternoon light. They moved with military precision, spreading out in a loose formation that effectively surrounded the crowd. Mr. Khan's smile returned, colder than before. I tried to handle this quietly. Now we do it the hard way. Alex looked up at the approaching men with innocent curiosity. Are these Charlie's daddy's friends? Maya's heart broke at her son's trust in the world around him. No, Beta. These are not good people. Charlie seemed to understand the gravity of the situation better than anyone else. He struggled to his feet despite the cement anchor, placing himself as firmly as possible between Alex and the approaching men. His lips pulled back in a silent snarl, and the muscles in his powerful hindquarters bunched as if he was preparing to leap despite being trapped. Zara moved closer to Maya and spoke in a low, urgent voice. The microchip information shows this dog was registered just 3 weeks ago, right before Jamal Rashed started investigating that construction contract scandal that's been in the news. Maya's blood ran cold. She remembered reading about it, something about a major construction company dumping toxic waste under the new infrastructure projects. The investigation had suddenly gone quiet after the journalist disappeared. Alex, Maya said carefully, I need you to put that computer card somewhere very safe. Can you do that for me? Alex nodded solemnly and carefully tucked the micro SD card into the small inner pocket of his shorts, the one Maya used for keeping emergency money. The piece of paper with numbers went into his other pocket. Omar was already moving toward his truck, trying to look casual. I'm getting those tools, he muttered to Maya as he passed, but one of the men from the SUVs intercepted him, placing a firm hand on Omar's chest. Nobody moves until we sort this out. The crowd of bystanders was getting restless. Some people were starting to back away, sensing danger, but others were pulling out their phones to record what was happening. "This is getting ugly," Zara said quietly. "These men aren't police. They're not animal control. They're not any kind of official authority." Mr. Khan approached their small group again, his earlier pretense of politeness completely abandoned. "The boy has something that doesn't belong to him. Hand it over and everyone can walk away from this." "He doesn't have anything," Maya lied, stepping protectively in front of Alex. "Ma'am, we know exactly what was hidden in that collar. We know the journalist gave specific instructions about what to do if something happened to him. And we know that dog was trained to find someone trustworthy if the journalist couldn't retrieve the information himself." Maya felt like the ground was shifting under her feet. "What are you talking about?" Charlie let out a sharp bark and pawed at Alex's leg. The boy looked down and saw that Charlie was scraping at the ground with his front paws, even though the chain limited his movement. "I think he wants to show us something," Alex said, kneeling down to look where Charlie was digging. In the loose dirt beside the concrete pillar, Charlie had uncovered what looked like a corner of plastic wrapping. Alex brushed away more dirt with his small hands, revealing a waterproof bag buried just a few inches deep. "There's something here," Alex announced excitedly. Mr. Khan lunged forward, but Omar appeared from nowhere and tackled him to the ground. The two men rolled in the dust while the crowd erupted in shouts and confusion. Maya grabbed Alex and pulled him back from the buried package, but Charlie was going crazy now, barking and straining against his chain with renewed desperation. Zara knelt quickly and dug out the waterproof bag. Inside was what looked like a small digital recorder, still blinking with power. "This is evidence," she said firmly. "Real evidence." One of the men from the SUVs was speaking urgently into a radio. Maya caught fragments of his conversation. "Package located, witnesses, too many people." Alex tugged on Maya's sleeve. "Mama, why is everyone fighting? We just wanted to help Charlie." Before Maya could answer, Charlie did something that made everyone freeze. Despite being anchored by cement, he managed to rear up on his hind legs and let out a howl that echoed off the surrounding buildings. It wasn't a sound of pain or fear, it was a sound of recognition. Maya followed Charlie's gaze and gasped. A police car was approaching from the far end of the construction zone, its lights flashing, but no siren. Mr. Khan saw it too. He shoved Omar away and barked orders at his men. "Clean this up, now!" But Alex was already running toward the police car, waving his arms and shouting, "Help! Help us! Charlie needs help!" Maya's heart stopped as she watched her 5-year-old son race toward what might be their only chance at safety, the micro SD card and coordinates still hidden in his pockets, while 6 dangerous men closed in from behind. The police car slowed as it approached, and Maya could see a female officer behind the wheel. Alex reached the vehicle just as it came to a complete stop, his small fists pounding on the passenger side window. "Please help us!" Alex's voice carried clearly across the construction site. "There's a doggy trapped in cement, and the bad men want to hurt him." Officer Fatima stepped out of the patrol car, her hand instinctively moving to her radio as she took in the chaotic scene. She was a woman in her 30s with kind eyes and the steady presence of someone who'd seen enough emergencies to stay calm under pressure. "Slow down, Beta," she said gently to Alex. "Tell me what's happening." Alex grabbed Officer Fatima's hand and started pulling her toward Charlie. "His name is Charlie, and someone put cement on his chain so he can't move. And there are men in black cars who want to take away the thing that was hurting his collar." Officer Fatima allowed herself to be led by Alex, but her eyes were scanning the crowd, the SUVs, and the tense standoff around the German Shepherd. Her training told her this was much more complicated than a simple animal rescue. Mr. Khan immediately approached them, his polished smile back in place. "Officer, thank God you're here. We have a dangerous animal situation that got out of hand when these civilians interfered." "And you are?" Officer Fatima asked, her tone professionally neutral. "Site security coordinator. We've been trying to contain a potentially rabid dog, but these people wouldn't cooperate with quarantine procedures." Alex looked up at Officer Fatima with wide, earnest eyes. "That's not true. Charlie is nice. He drank water from my bottle and didn't bite me or anything. And the lady vet said he's not sick." Officer Fatima knelt down to Alex's eye level. "What's your name, Beta?" "Alex, and that's my mama Maya over there. She drives a scooter and works very hard. We were just going home when we saw Charlie needed help. The simple honesty in Alex's voice seemed to cut through all the adult complications. Officer Fatima stood up and looked more carefully at the scene. Charlie was still straining against his chain, but his attention was focused entirely on Alex. There was no foam around his mouth, no signs of aggression toward the child who had been sitting beside him. "Ma'am," Officer Fatima called to Maya, "can you come here, please, and bring anyone else who witnessed what happened?" Maya approached with Zara and Omar, who was sporting a bruised cheek from his scuffle with Mr. Khan. The 6 men from the SUVs had spread out in a loose perimeter, but they weren't advancing, yet. "Officer, I'm Maya, Alex's mother. We stopped to help the dog, and this man," she pointed to Mr. Khan, "claimed he was site security, but when we found something hidden in the dog's collar, he became very aggressive." "What kind of something?" Officer Fatima asked. Alex reached into his pocket before Maya could stop him. "A little computer thing," and Charlie's collar had a secret message that said he belongs to someone named Jamal. Officer Fatima's expression changed immediately at the mention of Jamal's name. "Jamal Rashed, the journalist?" Zara stepped forward. "I scanned the dog's microchip. He's registered to Jamal Rashed, who disappeared 6 days ago. This dog shouldn't be here alone." Officer Fatima was quiet for a moment, processing the information. Maya could see her connecting dots, and her hand moved closer to her service weapon. "Sir," she said to Mr. Khan, "I'm going to need to see that identification again." Real slow. Mr. Khan's confident facade flickered. "Officer, this is a matter of national security. I don't have time for—" "You'll make time," Officer Fatima interrupted firmly, "because right now, I have a missing person case, a trapped animal, and 6 unmarked vehicles with unidentified men. So we're going to sort this out properly." While they talked, Alex had wandered back to Charlie. The dog immediately calmed when the boy approached, his tail wagging weakly in the dust. "I'm sorry everyone is being so loud, Charlie," Alex whispered, stroking the dog's head. "The police lady seems nice. I think she'll help us." Charlie looked up at Alex with those intelligent brown eyes and did something extraordinary. He gently took the hem of Alex's t-shirt in his mouth and began pulling the boy toward a specific spot near the concrete pillar. "Mama!" Alex called out. "Charlie wants to show me something else." Maya looked over and felt her stomach drop. Charlie was pulling Alex toward a storm drain that ran along the edge of the construction area. The metal grate was partially concealed by construction debris, but Charlie seemed to know exactly where it was. "Alex, come away from there," Maya called, but Alex was already kneeling beside the drain, peering into the shadowy opening. "There's something in here, Mama, something wrapped in plastic." Zara hurried over to help, using her phone's flashlight to illuminate the drain. About 2 feet inside, wedged against the concrete lip, was another waterproof package. "Charlie, you're so smart," Alex said admiringly. "You knew where Daddy hid his important things." Mr. Khan had been watching this exchange with growing panic. When he saw Zara reaching into the drain to retrieve the package, he finally snapped. "Stop!" he shouted, reaching into his jacket. Officer Fatima's reaction was instantaneous. "Hands where I can see them! Now!" But Mr. Khan wasn't going for a weapon. He was reaching for his phone, hitting what looked like a speed dial number. "Package compromised. Authorization for immediate retrieval. Yes, I understand the collateral damage parameters." Officer Fatima grabbed the phone from his hands and ended the call, but the damage was done. The men from the SUVs were moving now, closing in from all directions. Omar positioned himself between the approaching men and the small group around Charlie. "Officer, we need to get these people out of here. This isn't going to end well." But Alex wasn't paying attention to any of the adult drama. He was focused entirely on Charlie, who had begun digging frantically at the base of the concrete pillar with his front paws. "What is it, boy? What are you trying to show us?" Maya looked where Charlie was digging and gasped. The dog had uncovered what looked like a small speaker or recording device, partially buried in the loose soil. Alex picked it up carefully, his small fingers finding a button on the side. Before anyone could stop him, he pressed it. Jamal Rashid's voice filled the air, clear and urgent despite the small speaker's limitations. "If you're hearing this, something has happened to me. The evidence of illegal dumping by Fortuna Construction is hidden in 3 locations. The first cache contains soil samples and photographs. The second contains financial records. The third contains recorded conversations with company executives. The coordinates for all 3 locations are encoded on the micro SD card that Charlie carries. If I don't retrieve this recording within 72 hours, Charlie has been trained to find someone trustworthy and lead them to these locations. The recording paused, and Jamal's voice became softer, sadder. Charlie, if you're hearing this with strangers, it means I couldn't come back for you. I'm sorry, boy. I hope whoever finds you understands how important this is. The toxic waste they're dumping will poison the groundwater for thousands of families. People need to know the truth. The recording clicked off, leaving silence except for the sound of traffic and construction equipment in the distance. Alex looked up at the adults with innocent confusion. Why did Charlie's daddy make a sad voice? And what's toxic waste? Officer Fatima was already on her radio, calling for backup and requesting priority response. But Maya could see the men from the SUVs were almost within striking distance. Alex, Maya said urgently, I need you to hold onto that computer card very tight. Can you do that for me? Alex nodded solemnly, checking his pocket to make sure the micro SD card was still secure. Charlie seemed to understand that his message had been delivered. He stopped digging and sat up straighter, his ears perked forward alertly. But instead of looking at the approaching danger, he was staring directly at Officer Fatima. He's waiting for her to help, Alex observed. Charlie knows she's a good person. Officer Fatima met the dog's gaze and seemed to make a decision. She spoke quickly into her radio, requesting emergency environmental response and priority backup for a missing person case with hostile parties on scene. Omar, she said quietly, how quickly can you get that cement off the dog? Omar glanced at the approaching men, then at his truck where his tools were stored. If I can get to my equipment, maybe 5 minutes, but those guys aren't going to give us 5 minutes. Then we make time, Officer Fatima said grimly. She walked directly toward the nearest group of men, her hand resting on her service weapon. Gentlemen, this is now a crime scene related to a missing person investigation. I need all of you to identify yourselves and explain your presence here. The lead man, a tall figure with military bearing, stepped forward. We're private security contractors. We have authorization to retrieve stolen materials. Authorization from whom? And what materials? That's classified information. Not anymore, it isn't. Officer Fatima's voice carried absolute authority. This is a public street, and I have a missing journalist, evidence of environmental crimes, and 6 armed men without proper identification. Nobody moves until I sort this out. While she confronted the men, Omar made his move. He sprinted to his truck and grabbed a hammer and chisel, then raced back to Charlie's position. Easy, boy, Omar said to Charlie as he knelt beside the cement anchor. This might be loud, but we're going to get you free. Alex immediately moved to comfort Charlie, wrapping his small arms around the dog's neck. It's okay, Charlie. Omar is going to break the mean cement so you can move again. The first strike of hammer on chisel rang out like a gunshot. Charlie flinched but held still, seeming to understand that the noise was meant to help him. The men from the SUVs started moving faster, but Officer Fatima positioned herself directly in their path. Stop right there. This area is under police control pending investigation. Officer, you're interfering with national security operations, the lead man said. Then show me the paperwork. Federal agencies don't operate in my jurisdiction without notification. Omar's hammer rang against the chisel again, and chunks of cement began falling away from the anchor ring. Charlie's tail wagged as he felt the chain loosening. Zara was examining the package they had retrieved from the storm drain. Officer, this contains what looks like financial documents and photographs. If this is evidence in the journalist's investigation, it's exactly what he described in the recording. Alex was still hugging Charlie, whispering encouragement as Omar worked. Almost free, Charlie, then you can run and play again. But Maya was watching the standoff between Officer Fatima and the armed men with growing dread. More vehicles were approaching from the main road, but she couldn't tell if they were police backup or more trouble. Mr. Khan had been standing to the side, making urgent phone calls. Now he approached Officer Fatima with a different strategy. Officer, I understand your position, but you're dealing with matters beyond local jurisdiction. That material contains sensitive information that could compromise ongoing federal investigations. Then the federal agencies can send proper representatives with proper paperwork, Officer Fatima replied firmly. Omar struck the cement again, and this time the anchor ring shifted visibly. Charlie felt it immediately and began pulling gently at the chain, testing his range of motion. "Almost there, boy," Omar grunted, wiping sweat from his forehead. Alex looked up at Maya with bright, excited eyes. "Mama, Charlie's almost free. Then we can take him to find his daddy, right?" Maya's heart ached at her son's innocent optimism. "We'll see, Beta. First we need to make sure Charlie is safe." The sound of sirens filled the air now, growing closer. Officer Fatima spoke into her radio again, coordinating the response and requesting animal control assistance. Charlie, sensing freedom was near, began whining with excitement. His powerful hindquarters bunched as he prepared to move for the first time in hours. Omar delivered one final, decisive blow to the cement anchor. The ring cracked completely, and the chain came free with a metallic clatter. Charlie immediately bounded to his feet, the heavy chain still attached to his collar, but no longer anchoring him to the pillar. His first move was to circle Alex protectively, placing himself between the boy and the armed men. "Good boy, Charlie!" Alex laughed, throwing his arms around the dog's neck again. "You're free." But their celebration was short-lived. The lead man from the SUVs was speaking urgently into his radio, and Maya caught fragments of his transmission that made her blood run cold. "Target is mobile. Package location confirmed. Authorization to proceed with extreme measures." Officer Fatima heard it too. She drew her weapon and spoke clearly into her radio. "Code 3 backup needed immediately. Multiple armed suspects, potential federal crimes, officer requesting emergency assistance." Charlie seemed to sense the escalating danger. He nudged Alex gently but firmly toward Maya, then positioned himself facing the armed men. The playful dog who had been licking Alex's face moments before was now every inch the trained German shepherd, alert and ready to protect his pack. Maya grabbed Alex's hand, her mind racing through their limited options. The micro SD card in Alex's pocket contained evidence that powerful people were willing to kill for. And her innocent 5-year-old son was now at the center of it all, along with a dog who had been trained to guard secrets that could expose environmental crimes affecting thousands of people. The sirens were getting closer, but so were the armed men. And Maya realized with crystal clarity that the next few minutes would determine whether her son's simple act of kindness would save lives or cost them everything. Charlie stood like a statue beside Alex, his powerful frame radiating protective energy. The heavy chain still hung from his collar, dragging slightly on the ground, but the dog paid it no attention. His focus was entirely on the approaching threat. Alex, still blissfully unaware of the full danger, was trying to remove the chain from Charlie's collar. "This is too heavy for you, Charlie. Let me help." The buckle was old and worn, and as Alex's small fingers worked at it, Maya noticed something. The leather collar had multiple layers, and between them was a thin line of stitching that looked different from the rest. "Alex, leave the collar alone for now," Maya said gently, but Alex had already found the hidden seam. "Mama, there's another secret pocket." Alex's fingers pulled at the loose stitching, revealing a thin compartment that ran along the inside of the collar. Before anyone could stop him, Alex had extracted a small folded piece of paper, no bigger than a business card. Numbers and letters were written in tiny, precise handwriting. Charlie saw what Alex had found and immediately sat down, pressing his body against the boy's legs. The dog's message was clear: stay close, stay safe. Officer Fatima was still holding the armed men at bay, but Maya could see the tension escalating. More vehicles were approaching from multiple directions, and she couldn't tell which ones were help and which ones were additional threats. "Omar," she called quietly, "can you take a look at this paper Alex found?" Omar glanced at the small note over Alex's shoulder. "Those look like GPS coordinates, multiple sets, and there are some kind of code words written underneath." Zara, who had been examining the package from the storm drain, looked up with excitement. "These coordinates match locations mentioned in the financial documents. Jamal marked specific dumping sites." Alex studied the paper with the serious concentration only children could muster. Charlie's daddy wrote very tiny letters. "Look, this word says dawn, and this one says pipeline." Maya felt a chill run down her spine. Dawn was less than 12 hours away. If Jamal had been planning something for dawn, they were running out of time. The first police backup unit arrived, followed immediately by 2 more patrol cars. Officer Fatima's relief was visible as additional officers took positions around the scene. But instead of de-escalating, the arrival of more police seemed to trigger something in the armed men. The lead man spoke rapidly into his radio, and Maya caught the words immediate extraction and collateral acceptable. Charlie's ears flattened against his head, and a low growl rumbled deep in his chest. The dog had positioned himself so that Alex was completely behind him, protected by his powerful body. "Something's wrong," Zara said quietly. "Charlie's sensing something we can't see." She was right. Charlie was staring intently at the storm drain they had retrieved the package from, his head cocked at an angle that suggested he was listening to something. Alex noticed too. "What do you hear, Charlie? Is there something else down there?" Charlie let out a sharp bark and moved toward the drain, pulling against Alex's grip on his collar. The dog was clearly trying to communicate something urgent. "Let him show us," Officer Fatima said, approaching their group while keeping one eye on the standoff with the armed men. Alex allowed Charlie to lead him back to the storm drain. The dog immediately began pawing at a different section of the concrete lip, about 3 feet from where they'd found the first package. "There's another hiding spot," Omar realized, kneeling beside Charlie. Working together, Alex and Omar cleared away debris and loose concrete. Hidden behind a false panel was a small digital device, still blinking with a red light. "That's a transmitter," Zara said with growing alarm. "It's been broadcasting." Officer Fatima's face went pale. "Broadcasting what?" Alex picked up the device with innocent curiosity, examining the small screen that showed a map with multiple blinking dots. "It looks like a treasure map, Mama. See all the pretty lights?" Maya looked at the screen and felt sick. The blinking dots corresponded exactly to the coordinates written on the paper Alex had found. Someone had been tracking every location where Jamal had hidden evidence. "They've known all along," Omar said grimly. "They've been watching, waiting for someone to find the evidence and lead them to all the hiding spots." Charlie let out another sharp bark, this one directed at the armed men. The dog's instincts were screaming danger, and he pressed closer to Alex. Mr. Khan stepped forward, his polished facade completely gone now. "You've served your purpose. The transmitter has been recording GPS data for the last 20 minutes. We now know the location of all remaining evidence caches." Officer Fatima raised her weapon. "That's far enough. This is a crime scene, and you're all under arrest for obstruction of justice." "I don't think so," Mr. Khan replied coldly. The sound of helicopter rotors filled the air, growing rapidly louder. Maya looked up to see a black helicopter approaching from the southeast, flying low and fast. Alex pointed at the aircraft with excitement. "Look, Charlie! A helicopter! Maybe it's here to help too." But Charlie was backing away from the approaching aircraft, his body language screaming alarm. The dog grabbed Alex's shirt gently in his teeth and began pulling him toward the nearest building. "Charlie doesn't like the helicopter," Alex observed, allowing himself to be guided. "Why is he scared of flying machines?" Omar was already moving, grabbing Maya's arm. "Because that's not a rescue helicopter. Look at the markings." Maya squinted at the aircraft and felt her heart stop. Instead of police or emergency service markings, the helicopter bore the logo of a private security company. Officer Fatima was speaking urgently into her radio, calling for air support and requesting immediate backup from federal agencies. But the helicopter was already circling the construction site, clearly preparing to land. Zara stuffed the evidence packages into her medical bag and slung it across her shoulder. "We need to move, now." But Alex was reluctant to leave Charlie's discovery site. "Wait, Charlie might want to show us more secret things." As if understanding Alex's words, Charlie led them to one final location near the base of the concrete pillar. Using his powerful paws, the dog uncovered what looked like a waterproof container buried in the loose soil. Alex opened it carefully, revealing a small stack of photographs and what appeared to be a letter written in Jamal's handwriting. "Alex, can you read what the letter says?" Maya asked, knowing her son had been practicing reading in school. Alex held up the letter, sounding out the words carefully. "Dear Charlie, if strangers find this trust the child. Children see truth when adults see lies." The simple message hit Maya like a physical blow. Jamal had somehow known that if something happened to him, Charlie would seek out someone innocent, someone whose motives couldn't be questioned. Charlie had chosen Alex not just because the boy was kind, but because a 5-year-old's compassion was the one thing that couldn't be corrupted or bought. The helicopter was coming in for landing now, whipping dust and debris into the air. Officer Fatima and her backup units were trying to establish a perimeter, but the rotor wash was making communication difficult. Alex squinted against the flying dust and held tightly to Charlie's collar. "It's too windy. Charlie doesn't like all this noise." Charlie was clearly agitated by the helicopter, but he stayed close to Alex, using his body to shield the boy from the worst of the debris. Omar shouted over the noise, "There's a service tunnel that runs under this section of road. If we can get to the access point, we might be able to get out of here." Maya looked around desperately. The armed men were advancing from multiple directions. The helicopter was landing, and Alex was caught in the middle with evidence that people were willing to kill for. But Alex was focused entirely on Charlie, stroking the dog's head and speaking to him in a calm, soothing voice. "It's okay, boy. We're going to figure this out. You were so good at hiding Daddy's important things." Charlie looked up at Alex with complete trust, and in that moment, Maya understood something profound. Her son hadn't just stumbled into this situation by accident. Charlie had been waiting for exactly the right person, someone whose heart was pure enough to see past the complexity and danger to the simple truth underneath. Jamal's investigation wasn't just about environmental crimes. It was about protecting the water that thousands of families drank every day. It was about making sure children like Alex could grow up in a world where powerful people couldn't poison the ground with impunity. The helicopter touched down about 50 feet away, and armed figures began emerging from the aircraft. These weren't the same men who had arrived in the SUVs. These were military contractors, equipped with serious weapons and tactical gear. Officer Fatima was shouting commands, but the rotor noise made coordination nearly impossible. Her backup units were trying to establish control, but they were clearly outgunned. Alex looked up at Maya with complete trust. "Mama, Charlie wants us to follow him. I think he knows a safe place." Charlie was indeed moving toward what looked like a maintenance access point near the construction site. The dog seemed to know exactly where he was going, as if he'd memorized every possible escape route. "How does he know about that?" Zara asked, following close behind. Omar had the answer. Service dogs are trained to know their territory. If Jamal was investigating this construction site, Charlie would have learned every entrance and exit. They reached the access point just as the first tactical team members reached the ground. Charlie pawed at a metal cover that looked like it hadn't been opened in years. "It's locked," Omar said, examining the heavy padlock. But Alex was studying the lock with the same careful attention he'd given everything else that day. "Charlie, do you know how to open this?" Charlie barked once and used his nose to indicate a loose section of fencing about 10 feet away. Hidden underneath the fence was a small magnetic box, the kind used to hide spare keys. "Charlie's daddy thought of everything," Alex said admiringly, retrieving the key. The lock opened easily, revealing a service tunnel that ran underneath the road. Emergency lighting cast a dim glow into the darkness, showing a concrete walkway that disappeared into shadows. Charlie immediately started down the tunnel, looking back to make sure Alex was following. The message was clear: this way to safety. But as they prepared to enter the tunnel, Maya heard something that made her blood freeze. Mr. Khan was speaking to the tactical team leader, and his words carried clearly in a momentary lull in the helicopter noise. "The boy has the primary data storage device. Retrieve it by any means necessary. The dog is expendable. So are the witnesses." Officer Fatima heard it too. She spoke quickly into her radio, her voice urgent and professional. "All units, we have credible threats against civilians, including a minor. Request immediate federal response and protective custody protocols." Alex was already halfway into the tunnel with Charlie, completely unaware that armed men were now being given permission to hurt him to get what he carried. Maya grabbed Zara's and Omar's arms. "They just authorized extreme measures. They're going to kill anyone who gets in their way." Zara's face went white. "Including Alex?" Maya couldn't answer. The truth was too horrible to speak aloud. Charlie barked from inside the tunnel, a sound that echoed off the concrete walls. The dog was calling to them, promising safety if they would just trust him. Officer Fatima made a split-second decision. "Go. Follow the dog. I'll hold them here as long as I can and guide federal response to your location." As if sensing the urgency, Charlie grabbed Alex's shirt again and began pulling him deeper into the tunnel. The boys' laughter echoed off the concrete walls, a sound of pure joy that stood in stark contrast to the life and death situation unfolding above ground. "Charlie knows where we're going," Alex called back to the adults. "He says it's an adventure." Maya took one last look at the chaos above, the helicopter, the armed men, the police trying to maintain control, then followed her son and his four-legged guardian into the underground darkness, carrying evidence that could save thousands of lives if they could just stay alive long enough to get it to the right people. The service tunnel stretched ahead of them like a concrete throat, lit by sparse emergency bulbs that cast long shadows on the damp walls. Charlie moved with confidence, his nails clicking against the concrete as he led them deeper underground. The sound of the helicopter and shouting voices faded behind them, replaced by the echo of their own footsteps and the distant hum of machinery. Alex walked beside Charlie, his small hand resting on the dog's back for guidance in the dim light. "This is like a secret cave, Charlie. Did your daddy show you this place?" Charlie's tail wagged briefly, and he looked back at Alex with what Maya could only describe as affection. The massive German shepherd had appointed himself as Alex's personal guardian, and nothing was going to change that. "How far does this tunnel go?" Zara asked, her medical bag bouncing against her hip as they walked. Omar, who had been studying the construction plans posted on a wall panel, looked grim. "These service tunnels connect to the main utility infrastructure. They run for several miles underground, but they also have multiple access points. If those men know the area, they'll be waiting for us when we come up." Maya finished the thought. The tunnel split into three directions ahead of them. Charlie paused, sniffing the air carefully before choosing the middle passage. His decision seemed confident, as if he'd walked this route before. "Charlie knows which way to go," Alex observed. "He's really smart, isn't he, Mama?" Before Maya could answer, they heard it. The echo of heavy boots on concrete, coming from the direction they had just traveled. Multiple sets of footsteps, moving fast and getting closer. "They found the tunnel entrance," Omar whispered. Charlie's ears perked up, and he immediately moved to place himself between Alex and the approaching sounds. A low growl rumbled in his chest, but he kept it quiet, as if he understood the need for stealth. "We need to move faster," Zara said urgently. But Alex was struggling to keep up with the adult pace, his small legs working hard to match their longer strides. Charlie seemed to sense this and slowed down, staying perfectly in step with the 5-year-old. Maya picked up Alex, carrying him the piggyback style. "Hold on tight, Beta. We're going to play a quiet running game." "Like hide and seek," Alex whispered into her ear. "Exactly like hide and seek, and Charlie is helping us win." They moved as quickly as they could through the tunnel system, following Charlie's lead. The dog seemed to know exactly where he was going, turning left and right through passages that all looked identical to Maya. Behind them, the footsteps were getting closer. Maya could hear voices now, harsh and professional, coordinating their search. "Spread out. Check every passage. They can't have gone far with a child. The dog will slow them down. Animals don't like confined spaces." Charlie's ears flattened at the sound of the voices, but he didn't slow down. If anything, he seemed more determined to lead them to safety. The tunnel they were following began to slope upward, and Maya could see a faint light ahead. Natural light, not the artificial glow of emergency bulbs. "There's an exit up there," Omar said with relief. But as they approached the light, Charlie suddenly stopped. His body went rigid, and he pressed himself against the tunnel wall, blocking their path. "What's wrong, Charlie?" Alex whispered. Charlie was staring at the exit with intense focus, his nose working the air. After a moment, he backed away from the light and nudged them toward a smaller side passage they had almost missed. "He knows something we don't," Maya said. "We should trust him." They followed Charlie into the narrower tunnel, moving single file now. The passage was cramped and uncomfortable, but Charlie led them through it with confidence. After what felt like an eternity, they emerged into a larger chamber that housed some kind of pump station. The air was humid and filled with the sound of running water, but it was clearly a dead end. "Charlie, this doesn't go anywhere," Alex said, looking around in confusion. But Charlie wasn't finished. He led them to what looked like a maintenance ladder built into the wall. Above the ladder, Maya could see another access hatch. Omar climbed up first to check the exit. "It's clear," he called down quietly. "This comes up behind a utility building, about 2 blocks from the construction site." They climbed up one by one, with Charlie going last to ensure everyone made it safely. Maya emerged into bright afternoon sunlight, momentarily blinded after the darkness of the tunnels. They were in a small courtyard behind a power substation, completely hidden from the main road. Charlie immediately began scanning the area, his protective instincts on high alert. "Why did Charlie avoid the first exit?" Zara asked. They got their answer immediately. The sound of vehicles and shouting voices came from the direction of the tunnel exit Charlie had rejected. He'd somehow known it was being watched. "Good boy, Charlie," Alex said proudly. "You saved us from the bad men." But their relief was short-lived. Maya's phone rang, and she recognized Officer Fatima's number. "Maya, where are you?" Officer Fatima's voice was urgent. "Federal agents are en route, but the private contractors have brought in more people. They're searching every exit point from the tunnel system." "We're behind the power station on Maple Street," Maya replied. "That's not safe for long. They'll find that location soon. You need to get to a public place, somewhere with lots of witnesses and security cameras." Alex tugged on Maya's sleeve. "Mama, Charlie wants to go somewhere. He keeps looking that way." Alex pointed toward the center of the city. Omar checked his phone's map application. "If we go that direction, we'll hit the main shopping district. Lots of people, lots of security cameras." "But how do we get there without being spotted?" Zara asked. Charlie had been listening to their conversation with the intense focus that Maya was learning to recognize. The dog looked at Alex, then at the adults, then back at Alex. His message was clear: "Follow me." He led them to a service alley that ran parallel to the main street. It was narrow and crowded with delivery trucks and dumpsters, but it provided cover from the main road. "Charlie knows all the back ways," Alex observed admiringly. "He's like a secret agent dog." They moved through the alley system, staying hidden while making their way toward the shopping district. Charlie seemed to know every shortcut and hiding spot, guiding them past potential danger with the skill of a trained reconnaissance animal. But as they neared their destination, Maya heard something that made her heart stop. The distinctive sound of the helicopter, much closer now, flying low over the city streets. "They're doing aerial surveillance," Omar said grimly, "looking for us from above." Charlie immediately led them under a concrete overpass, pressing them all against the wall in the shadows. The helicopter passed directly overhead, its rotors drowning out all other sound. Alex wasn't frightened by the aircraft anymore. Instead, he was focused entirely on Charlie, stroking the dog's head and whispering encouragement. "You're taking such good care of us, Charlie. Your daddy would be so proud." At the mention of Jamal, Charlie's ears drooped slightly. The dog missed his owner, and the reminder brought a wave of sadness that was visible in his expressive eyes. Alex noticed immediately. "Don't worry, Charlie. We're going to find your daddy, and we're going to tell everyone about the bad men who hurt the water." Maya felt tears spring to her eyes. Her 5-year-old son had somehow grasped the essential truth of their situation. This wasn't just about them anymore. It was about protecting something much larger. The helicopter moved on, and Charlie led them out from under the overpass. They could see the shopping district ahead, busy with afternoon crowds and normal city life. But as they prepared to enter the public area, Charlie suddenly froze. His entire body went rigid, and a low growl rumbled deep in his chest. "What is it, boy?" Alex asked. Charlie was staring at a man in a business suit who was standing near the entrance to the shopping center. He looked like any other businessman, but something about him had triggered Charlie's alarm systems. Omar followed Charlie's gaze and swore under his breath. "That's one of them. He's trying to blend in, but look at his shoes. Military issue. And he's got a radio earpiece." "There are probably more," Zara said, scanning the crowd. "They're setting up surveillance at all the public areas." Maya felt trapped. The shopping center had been their best hope for safety, but now it looked like a trap. Alex sensed the adult's fear and looked up at Charlie with complete trust. "Charlie, what should we do?" Charlie studied the situation for a long moment, then made a decision that surprised everyone. Instead of leading them away from the shopping center, he began walking directly toward it. "Charlie, no!" Maya called softly. "It's dangerous." But Charlie looked back at her with an expression that seemed to say, "Trust me." Then he did something extraordinary. The massive German Shepherd sat down right in the middle of the busy sidewalk and let out a loud, mournful howl. The sound cut through all the city noise like a knife. People stopped walking and turned to look. Within seconds, a crowd was gathering around Charlie, with Alex kneeling beside him. "Is the doggy hurt?" a little girl asked her mother. "Poor thing looks lost," an elderly man observed. "Someone should call animal control," a woman suggested. But Alex stood up and spoke in his clear 5-year-old voice that carried across the growing crowd. "This is Charlie. He's a very good dog, and he's trying to tell everyone something important about some bad men who want to hurt the water." The crowd murmured with confusion, but they didn't disperse. If anything, more people gathered, drawn by the unusual sight of a child and a large dog putting on an impromptu performance. Maya suddenly understood Charlie's strategy. The dog was creating a scene, drawing attention, making it impossible for the surveillance team to approach without being noticed by dozens of witnesses. Zara caught on immediately. She pulled out her phone and started recording, speaking loudly enough for the crowd to hear. "This dog belongs to Jamal Rashed, the missing journalist. He's been trying to lead us to evidence about illegal toxic waste dumping." "The journalist who disappeared?" someone in the crowd asked. "I saw that story on the news," another person said. Within minutes, half the crowd had their phones out, recording everything. Social media posts were being uploaded in real time, spreading the story across the internet. The businessman Charlie had spotted was talking urgently into his radio, but he couldn't approach without being filmed by dozens of people. Alex, sensing that he had everyone's attention, continued his impromptu speech with the earnest honesty that only children possess. Charlie's daddy was trying to stop people from putting poison in the ground, where it goes into the water that kids drink, and the bad men trapped Charlie in cement so he couldn't tell anyone. But Charlie is really smart, and he showed us where daddy hid all the important papers. The crowd was completely captivated now. This wasn't just a lost dog story anymore. This was a child exposing environmental crimes in real time, with dozens of people recording every word. Omar stepped forward and held up one of the evidence packages. These documents show illegal dumping by Fortuna Construction at multiple sites around the city. The journalist found proof that they're contaminating groundwater. "Where's the journalist now?" someone called out. "Missing for 6 days, Zara replied. But his dog has been protecting the evidence and trying to find someone to help. The story was spreading through the crowd like wildfire. People were making phone calls, posting updates, sharing videos. Within minutes, the hashtag #CharlieTheHero was trending on local social media. The surveillance team was powerless. They couldn't stop dozens of people from filming and posting without causing an even bigger scene that would draw media attention. Charlie seemed to understand that his plan was working. His tail wagged as he watched the crowd grow larger and more engaged with their story. Alex knelt beside Charlie again and spoke directly to the cameras that were recording. "Charlie wants everyone to know that there are bad men who hurt animals and poison water because they think money is more important than keeping people safe. But kids and dogs know that's wrong. And now everyone knows too." The simple truth of Alex's words hit the crowd like a physical force. Several people were wiping their eyes, and the murmur of conversation had turned angry as people began to understand the implications of what they were hearing. Maya realized that Charlie hadn't just been protecting evidence. He'd been waiting for the right moment to expose the truth to the world, and he'd chosen Alex as his partner because children's voices cut through adult cynicism in ways that professional journalists sometimes couldn't. Police sirens were approaching now, but these sounded different from the tactical response they'd been fleeing. These were regular patrol cars, responding to reports of a public disturbance. Officer Fatima's voice crackled through Maya's phone. "Maya, are you at the shopping center? Because I'm getting reports of a massive social media event involving a missing journalist's dog." "That's us," Maya replied. "Charlie created a crowd scene to protect us from surveillance." "Brilliant dog! Federal agents are 3 minutes out. Keep that crowd engaged until they arrive." Alex was still talking to the cameras, his 5-year-old voice carrying absolute conviction. "Charlie and I want everyone to share this story so the bad men can't hide anymore. And we want everyone to help find Charlie's daddy so they can be together again." The crowd erupted in cheers and applause. Charlie's tail wagged harder, and he gave Alex's face a gentle lick that made the boy giggle. Maya looked around at the dozens of people filming, posting, and sharing their story with the world. In just a few minutes, Alex and Charlie had done something that would have taken professional journalists weeks to accomplish. They'd made the story impossible to suppress or deny. The businessman with the earpiece was backing away through the crowd, speaking urgently into his radio. Whatever his instructions had been, they clearly didn't cover dealing with a viral social media event featuring a 5-year-old whistleblower and his canine partner. Federal agents arrived in unmarked vehicles, moving through the crowd with professional efficiency, but careful not to disrupt the ongoing social media documentation. Agent Sarah Collins, a woman in her 40s with kind eyes and an authoritative presence, approached Maya directly. "Ma'am, I'm Agent Collins with the Environmental Protection Agency. We've been tracking the Fortuna construction case for months, but we couldn't find the evidence we needed. Your son and this dog just handed us the breakthrough we've been waiting for." Alex looked up at Agent Collins with curious interest. "Are you here to help Charlie find his daddy?" Agent Collins knelt to Alex's eye level, her voice gentle but serious. "We're going to do everything we can to find Mr. Rashed. And thanks to you and Charlie, we now have the evidence to stop the people who were hurting the environment." Charlie moved closer to Agent Collins, sniffing carefully before sitting down beside Alex. The dog's body language showed cautious acceptance of this new authority figure. Omar stepped forward with the evidence packages. "Agent Collins, we've recovered documents, photographs, and recordings from multiple cache locations. There's also a micro SD card with what appears to be GPS coordinates for additional sites." Agent Collins examined the materials briefly, her expression growing more serious with each item. "This is exactly what we needed: financial records, soil contamination data, recorded conversations with company executives. Mr. Rashed was building an airtight case." "Agent Collins," Zara interrupted urgently. "There were private contractors with military equipment trying to suppress this evidence. They had a helicopter and tactical teams." Agent Collins spoke into her radio, coordinating with other federal agencies. "We're aware of the private security involvement. That's actually what convinced our supervisors to fast-track this operation. When private military contractors start operating on domestic soil, it gets everyone's attention." The crowd around them had continued to grow, and now local news crews were arriving, drawn by the viral social media posts. Alex found himself at the center of a media circus, but Charlie remained calm beside him, providing steady support. A reporter approached with a camera crew. "Little boy, can you tell us what happened today?" Alex looked at Charlie, then back at the camera with the serious expression he wore when explaining important things to adults. "Me and Charlie found out that some very bad men were putting poison in the ground where the water comes from. Charlie's daddy was trying to stop them, but the bad men made daddy disappear. So Charlie had to find someone to help, and he picked me because I gave him water when he was stuck." The reporter's eyes widened. "And how did Charlie get stuck?" "The bad men put cement on his chain so he couldn't move, but Omar helped us break the cement, and then Charlie showed us where daddy hid all the important papers that proved the bad men were doing wrong things." Charlie seemed to understand that he was being discussed. He stood up and placed his head gently on Alex's shoulder, a gesture so natural and protective that it drew audible awes from the crowd and clicking cameras. Agent Collins was coordinating multiple operations simultaneously. "We have teams moving on the construction sites now. Based on the coordinates you provided, we're expecting to find active dumping operations at 3 locations." Maya felt a surge of relief mixed with anxiety. "What about the people who were chasing us, the men with weapons?" "Private security contractors operating without proper federal notification. They're being detained for questioning. Mr. Khan, who claimed to be site security, has already been arrested. Turns out he's a mid-level executive at Fortuna Construction." Alex's face lit up with understanding. "So, the bad men can't hurt Charlie or his daddy anymore." "That's right," Agent Collins confirmed. "And thanks to you, we're going to make sure they can't hurt anyone else either." Charlie suddenly became alert, his ears perking up and his tail beginning to wag with increasing intensity. He was staring toward the edge of the crowd, where Agent Collins had positioned additional federal agents. "Charlie sees something," Alex observed, following the dog's gaze. Through the crowd, Maya could see a man being escorted by 2 federal agents. He was disheveled and looked like he hadn't slept in days, but he was walking under his own power and seemed unharmed. Charlie let out a bark of pure joy and strained against Alex's gentle hold on his collar. "Is that—" Maya began. "Jamal Rashed," Agent Collins confirmed with a smile. "We found him in a safe house about an hour ago. He'd been hiding since he discovered the contractors were closing in. He's been desperately worried about Charlie." Alex's face broke into the biggest smile Maya had seen all day. "Charlie, your daddy's here. He came back." Charlie was practically vibrating with excitement, but he waited for Alex's permission before moving. The bond between the boy and dog had become so strong that Charlie wouldn't abandon his young protector, even for his beloved owner. "Go on, Charlie," Alex said generously. "Go see your daddy. I'll be right here." Charlie bounded through the crowd toward Jamal, his powerful body moving with grace and speed. The reunion was captured by dozens of cameras and phones, creating a moment that would be shared millions of times across social media. Jamal dropped to his knees as Charlie reached him, wrapping his arms around the massive dog, while tears streamed down his face. Charlie covered his owner's face with kisses, his tail wagging so hard his entire body wiggled. "Good boy, Charlie," Jamal whispered into the dog's fur. "I'm so sorry I couldn't come back sooner. Did you take care of the evidence like we practiced?" Charlie looked back toward Alex, then at Jamal, as if explaining what had happened. Jamal followed his dog's gaze and saw the 5-year-old boy standing in the center of the crowd, still holding some of the evidence packages. Jamal approached Alex slowly, Charlie walking beside him. When he reached the boy, he knelt down to Alex's eye level. "You must be the person Charlie chose to help," Jamal said, his voice thick with emotion. "I've been a journalist for 15 years, and I've never seen anyone braver than you." Alex looked at Jamal with shy curiosity. "Are you really Charlie's daddy?" "He was very worried about you." "I am, and I heard that you took very good care of him when I couldn't." "Charlie took care of me too," Alex replied seriously. "He showed me where you hid all the important things, and he kept the bad men away from us." Jamal's eyes filled with tears again. "Charlie was trained to find someone trustworthy if something happened to me, someone whose motives couldn't be questioned. He chose well." The crowd was completely silent now, watching this gentle conversation between the journalist and the child who had saved his life's work. Agent Collins approached the group. "Mr. Rashid, we need to debrief you about the evidence and get your statement about the threats you received. But first, I think there's something you should know." She gestured toward the crowd of people still filming and posting. "Your story is already international news. These social media posts have been shared over 1 million times in the last hour. The environmental crimes you uncovered are now public knowledge worldwide." Jamal looked around at the crowd with amazement. "How did this happen so fast?" Alex raised his hand like he was in school. "Charlie made a plan. He sat down in the middle of everyone and howled really loud, and then I told everyone about the bad men hurting the water. And then everyone started taking pictures and telling their friends." Jamal looked at his dog with pride and amazement. "Charlie, you brilliant boy. You didn't just protect the evidence, you made sure it couldn't be suppressed." Charlie's tail wagged proudly, and he looked back and forth between Jamal and Alex as if making sure both his humans were safe and happy. Agent Collins was receiving updates through her earpiece. "Mr. Rashed, I'm getting reports from our field teams. We've found active dumping operations at all 3 sites you identified. Fortuna construction executives are being arrested as we speak. The EPA is issuing emergency orders to stop all operations and begin immediate cleanup." "What about the contaminated groundwater?" Maya asked. "We'll need extensive testing, but the early indications suggest the contamination is localized and can be remediated. If this had continued for another few months, it would have affected the municipal water supply for hundreds of thousands of people." The magnitude of what Alex and Charlie had prevented hit the crowd like a wave. These weren't just environmental crimes. They were crimes that would have affected entire communities, including children like Alex. A young woman in the crowd called out, "What can we do to help?" Agent Collins addressed the crowd directly. "The best thing you can do is exactly what you're already doing. Share this story. Make sure everyone knows what happened here today. Environmental crimes thrive in darkness, but they can't survive transparency." Alex tugged on Jamal's sleeve. "Mr. Jamal, is Charlie going to be okay now? Will the bad men leave him alone?" Jamal smiled and ruffled Alex's hair. "Charlie is going to be Just fine. And so are you. The bad men can't hurt anyone anymore because everyone knows what they were doing. Charlie seemed to understand that the danger was over. His posture relaxed, and he moved to sit between Jamal and Alex, as if claiming both of them as his pack. "Can I visit Charlie sometimes?" Alex asked hopefully. "I'd like that very much," Jamal replied. "And I think Charlie would like it too." As if to confirm this, Charlie gently licked Alex's hand and wagged his tail. The news crews were conducting interviews now, and the story was evolving, from a local incident to a national environmental scandal. Alex found himself being interviewed by reporters, but he handled it with the same earnest honesty he'd shown all day. "What do you want people to remember about today?" a reporter asked. Alex thought carefully before answering. "I want people to remember that Charlie is a very good dog, and his daddy is a very brave person. And I want people to know that if you see someone who needs help, even if they're big and you're little, you should try to help them. Because maybe they're protecting something really important." The simplicity and wisdom of Alex's words left the reporter speechless for a moment. Agent Collins was wrapping up her coordination efforts. "Mr. Rashed, we'll need you and Charlie to come with us for debriefing, but this appears to be resolved. The evidence you gathered, combined with the day's public exposure, has given us everything we need for prosecutions." "What about Alex and his family?" Jamal asked. "They put themselves at risk to help us. They'll be under federal protection until we're certain there are no remaining threats. But honestly, after today's media coverage, any attempt to threaten them would bring down more scrutiny than these criminals can handle." Maya felt a weight lifting from her shoulders. Alex was safe. Charlie was reunited with Jamal. The environmental crimes had been exposed and stopped. And somehow, her 5-year-old son had become a hero by simply doing what came naturally to him, helping someone in need. The crowd began to disperse slowly, but many people stopped to shake Alex's hand or pet Charlie. The dog accepted the attention graciously, but his eyes kept tracking back to Alex and Jamal, making sure his pack was intact. As the afternoon sun began to set, casting long shadows across the shopping center, Maya reflected on the extraordinary day. Her son had left home that morning as a normal 5-year-old. He was returning as a child who had helped expose environmental crimes and save thousands of lives. Alex walked between Maya and Jamal, with Charlie padding along beside them. The boy was tired now, the adrenaline of the day finally wearing off, but he was still chattering excitedly about his adventure. "Mama, can we tell Daddy about Charlie when we get home? And can we show him the pictures of the helicopter?" Maya smiled and squeezed her son's hand. "We'll tell Daddy everything, Beta. He's going to be so proud of you." "And Charlie, too," Alex added seriously. "Charlie was the bravest of all of us." Jamal overheard this and smiled. "You know what, Alex? I think you and Charlie make a perfect team, 2 heroes looking out for each other." Charlie's tail wagged in agreement, and he gently bumped his head against Alex's leg in affection. 3 weeks later, at a small ceremony in the city park, a bronze plaque was unveiled on a memorial bench. It read simply, "In honor of the courage found in small acts of kindness." Alex and Charlie were there for the dedication, along with Jamal, Maya, Omar, Zara, and Officer Fatima. The cleanup of the contaminated sites was proceeding ahead of schedule. Fortuna Construction had been disbanded, and its executives faced federal charges. The story of Alex and Charlie had inspired environmental protection legislation and new whistleblower protection programs. But for Alex, the most important outcome was much simpler. Charlie came to visit every weekend, and the boy and dog had developed a friendship that would last a lifetime. As the ceremony concluded and the crowd began to disperse, Alex threw a tennis ball for Charlie in the park grass. The massive German Shepherd bounded after it with joy, his tail wagging and his tongue hanging out in a doggy grin. Watching them play, Jamal turned to Maya. "You know, Charlie was trained to recognize trustworthy people, but I never taught him to recognize heroes. He learned that all by himself." Maya watched her son laughing as Charlie brought the ball back to him. "I think they recognized something in each other that none of us adults could see." "What's that?" "Pure hearts," Maya said simply. "Both of them just want to help and protect the people they care about." Charlie dropped the ball at Alex's feet and sat down, looking up at the boy with complete adoration. Alex scratched behind the dog's ears and smiled. "Good boy, Charlie. You're the best friend anyone could ask for." And, as the sun set over the city park, a 5-year-old boy and a German shepherd who had saved thousands of lives played together in the grass, proving that sometimes the biggest heroes come in the smallest packages. The story of Alex and Charlie spread around the world, inspiring countless people to speak up for what's right, to help those in need, and to remember that kindness is always the most powerful force for change. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to hear more amazing true stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And don't forget to let us know in the comments where you're listening from around the world. Your support helps us bring these incredible stories of courage, compassion, and hope to audiences everywhere.